I'd like to introduce Larry Graham. He's from Okoboji, Iowa, and he works as a technical sales rep focused on the swine industry, working closely with swine veterinarians to improve biosecurity in swine facilities. Larry and his wife Jill have 5 children and truly enjoy babysitting their 5 grandchildren. Living in Okoboji, they love boating with family and friends and have a vintage Mustang convertible that Larry tells us they just don't seem to get enough time to drive, and you really need to change that. This afternoon, Larry will tell us about his grateful journey to restored sight through corneal transplants he received in both eyes. Larry.
Thank you for that introduction. When Deb asked me to speak, I had sent an email and said I'd be happy to speak, thinking it's in front of about 20 people. She says, "How's 200 sound?" I said, "Well, that'll be great." So, give you a little bit. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak at the Iowa Lions Bank, and thanks to the Iowa Lions Bank organization and the staff and the University of Iowa Optometric Clinic. My transplants and all the care that I received were with Dr. Goings, who is no longer with the university. He left right after my transplant, and Dr. Goings and his staff I'd like to thank a lot too. All the nurses and professionals and staff, and most of all the donors and donors' family. My brother-in-law was a donor, passed away about 15 years ago. So, tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up on a farm in northwest Iowa. I farmed for approximately 20 years. Decided I wanted to do something different, so the different was I moved to Western Canada and worked in the swine industry there. So, and then came back to the U.S. after that, worked for a pharmaceutical company, mainly working with swine vaccines. That company was Boehringer Ingelheim, which also has a big presence in the human market. So I traveled extensively for the 18 years. When I started out, I went basically from central Iowa all the way to the west coast, all the way to California, working with pigs. So I have some really interesting stories that a lot of my family's heard. So when we made the decision that I would need the partial cornea transplant, I retired full-time in the fall of 2017, scheduled the surgeries for starting in January of 18. Basically, I wanted to focus all my efforts on a successful outcome. So, give you a little bit of story is in 2010 is when Fuchs corneal dystrophy is what I had, or have basically, was diagnosed. Started working with Dr. Goings. I was single at the time with 3 grown children. The oldest one works in assisted living, a graphic designer, and a swine veterinarian, so they're completely different interests. I was working full-time in swine sales, so a lot of travel, a lot of computer work, a lot of spreadsheets, and my deteriorating vision made it much harder to drive and to be able to see. So in 2015, I married my wonderful wife, Jill, who couldn't be here with me today. Again, now we have 5 combined children and 5 grandchildren, 4 to 1 year olds. So it's busy. I had told her that knowing that I would have to have surgery, or transplant surgery, that I said we really need to wait and get married until that. She insisted that we get married anyway, and that wouldn't be a problem. So, and it was not. She was right. So Fuchs corneal dystrophy, basically the back layer of cells in the cornea die faster than normal. It's a rare genetic disorder. It can be passed by one parent to the next generation. Causes the corneas to swell, keep the glasses. Prescription sometimes would change day to day, so it was hard to focus. Distorts vision. My wife said it best, it's like looking through a spider web. So progressively deteriorating vision over years, and I was fortunate that we have really the leading clinic here at the University of Iowa for eyes, and that I was connected with Dr. Goins, and so basically the follow-up on that was set a baseline for where I was at, and then yearly come back and check that those cells in the back of the cornea and the vision. So I really have to thank the University of Iowa, Dr. Goins and his staff for their passion for research and the passion for teaching and passion for developing new techniques and improving outcomes. And I'll have to tell you, because some of the research is done with pigs, we had some great conversations about pigs. So when the decision was made for transplant in fall of 2017, basically it's called a DMEK procedure. I'm not sure I pronounced that all correctly, but DMEK, and it's just replacing that back layer of cells in the cornea. It sounds fairly simple, but pretty complicated. So started in January of 18. First eye surgery was a lens replacement in each eye. Had to wait a couple weeks, came back and did the transplant. Started with the right eye, had to wait a few weeks again, and then started the procedures on the left eye. So all in all, this was about a 4 month process. Couldn't lift more than 10 pounds. So some restrictions, still a little bit hard to see and drive as those healed, but you know, and I'd like to thank the donors for the eyes. One was a 71-year-old from Central Iowa, loving husband, father, grandfather, talented singer, pianist, and organist, and then the other was a 50-year-old, 8-year-old female wife, mother, grandmother, loved animals, had a beautiful voice, passionate quilter, and cancer survivor. And I can tell you, I haven't been able to play a piano or sing, so that didn't. So the transplant recovery, you know, between the surgeries and stuff, really have to thank my wife, Jill, and I have 2 sisters and a niece that live here in Iowa City. My oldest sister's here with me, and she taught school here for many years, and my other sister was a nurse here at the university hospitals in many different roles throughout the years. So had room, meals, transportation, and great nursing care. So, you know, 8 or more trips to Iowa City. I kind of lost track, a few of them in some snowstorms. 5 months of laying around the house, not lifting more than 10 pounds, and after the transplant surgeries, I had to stay flat on my back for about a week. And after I did all that, I decided to have some knee surgeries done. So I tell everybody I had an overhaul last year. So at this point, I think Jill was rethinking of getting married before surgery. But a little bit prior to surgery, like I said, eyesight was unstable, limited ability to read. I was driving but probably shouldn't have been. It was exhausting to do those tasks. If I drove 2 hours, I was pretty much exhausted, or if I read for any length of time, which about 10 minutes was all I could do. So post-surgery, my eyesight's extremely stable. As a matter of fact, without my glasses, it's 20/40, just a slight correction for distance. And then I can read for hours, love to read, driving with ease. I drive a lot again for work now that I am retired, and I can do computer work again, but that's not one of my favorite things to do. So now I unretired. I got coaxed back into working in the swine business field with a company that sells a disinfectant product for biosecurity issues, like I mentioned. My wife Jill works in the same industry, so we get to travel together often, which is a nice benefit. I always tell everybody I get paid, and then I get paid, my expenses paid to travel around the country and talk to my friends, so it's a great deal. So those 5 grandkids are 4 to 1. They're growing up really fast, and like I said, we enjoy boating. And Jill and I recently bought an RV and plan to see the country now that I can see. So, busy family, got a wedding this summer, lots of things going on. So to conclude, what I really like to say is thank you, and I don't think I can say that enough. Thank you to the donors. I wrote notes to both donors, and it just means a lot to me to be able to see. Thank you to the donors' families, and I understand all that you've gone through, and how hard it is to lose a loved one. But I just can't thank all of you enough, everybody involved, and please consider the decision to be a donor. Make sure that your decision is shared with family and loved ones. I'm so grateful for the eyesight and the life that I have now. It's life-saving and life-changing. Thank you.